Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order in just a few moments, but just a few points of explanation. Today's grants and funding committee members and Metro staff are joining by conference call in a moment, and we will call roll of all members present. This meeting will be recorded and posted within 2 business days at the Metro Nashville YouTube channel. All votes will be made by roll call. When speaking, please identify yourself by name. All action items voted on at today's meeting will be reconfirmed at the next in-person meeting of the committee. Now I encourage all participants on this call to stay muted unless speaking. If any commissioners are having technical difficulties, please let me know. And when I say me, I mean Grace, and then we will proceed. But I think we're going to go ahead and proceed without Clay. All right, let's call the meeting to order and let's take a roll call. Commissioner Byrd, are you here?
Present.
Commissioner Dow? Commissioner Dow?
Here, sorry.
No problem. Hi, Bonnie. And Commissioner Powell.
Present.
All right, and then Mary Elena, she is not here, and I think that's it. All right, we are officially called to order. And now the next thing we have to do is to call for a motion that the meeting agenda constitutes essential business of this body and meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans considering the COVID-19 outbreak, and is permitted under the governor's executive order 778, excuse me. So I need someone to propose this motion.
I so move. This is Bonnie.
Bonnie and Mary Ann Byrd, seconds.
Lovely. Bonnie proposed a motion. Commissioner Byrd has seconded. Okay. I'll take a roll call on this. Oh yeah, that's right. I always forget this roll call. So let's take a roll call to make sure that we can meet electronically today. Commissioner Byrd?
Yes.
Commissioner Dow?
Yes.
And Commissioner Powell?
Yes.
And Commissioner Busey votes yes as well. Okay, we got to discuss the board's minutes meetings. We're going to try to get these approved. Did everybody get a copy and get a chance to look at them? Good. All right. Anybody have any questions on the changes of the minutes? Okay, then I need someone to propose a motion to approve these minutes.
I make a motion. This is Commissioner Powell. I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Go ahead. Someone can second if they'd like. Thank you.
Mary Ann Byrd, seconds.
Thank you. And now we'll take a roll call to approve the minutes. Commissioner Byrd, what say you?
Aye.
Great. And Commissioner Dow?
Approve.
Commissioner Powell?
Aye.
And this is Commissioner Busey. I approve as well. Okay, we have an action item. I'm very excited about this, and I will now turn the meeting over to Nicole. Nicole, it's all yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to be with you today. I'm just going to disclose to, for those of you who were earlier, I do have my 2-year-old son here and my newborn, well, infant now, she's 4 months. So hopefully everything will go smoothly and we won't have interjections from them. So thank you ahead of time for your grace with just how things are right now. So the action item number 1 is restorative arts guidelines and application. Next slide, please. Just some updates for you about our restorative art programming. Reggie, no, thank you. Of course, right when I start, they go find a toy, buddy. It's swinging. It's swinging. No, thank you. Okay, just a minute. Global Education Center and Southern Word and From the Heart offered 143.5 virtual hours of programming the first semester. So this was all of the programming that was offered prior to the momentary pause in programming due to the budget, like where we had to freeze our programs because we couldn't have any further expenditures. Programs were paused, as you saw, and our budget was reduced by half. And however, we began programs again at the end of January. Global Education Center and Southern Ward still offer programming in JDC for the spring semester. It's going fairly well. TPAC just began their second week of in-person programming. They run an awesome program that just gives kids who have gone through the gang program, through the grip court, just agency and ownership over a final artwork, and it's awesome. So Street Solid is actually beginning their program. That's a new organization with you, but many of you know John Royal, and so he's doing his August Wilson program, and so just working out some details with that, and they should be beginning their program this month, which is super exciting. It's just been great to hear and see youth grow as well as our artists. And just to give you an update, we have been at the beginning of the year, I told you about training opportunities and various supports that we were going to give our artists to try to really infuse and integrate those restorative practices into their programming. And so we had a really good, we did a restorative circle yesterday about their implementation of circles. And so that was really great. So we're beginning to see some of those restorative practices being infused and integrated into the program, which is the goal. So excited about that. Next slide, please, Grace. So as you saw in the guidelines, there's various dates. Just to highlight a few, we hopefully will open the application up on April 18th, and they'll be due May 14th. We'll be doing a staff eligibility review. Also, I didn't put, it's in the guidelines, but you see we still offer coaching and supports for those providers who will be applying. We hopefully will be able to review the award allocations at the grant funding committee in June, and hopefully those will hopefully be confirmed by the commission during the June 17th meeting. Programming will be able to happen from July 1st to June 11th and of 2022. And so then the end of year reports will be due June 15th of 2022. Next slide, please, Grace. So there are some notable changes to the guidelines. Historically, well, not historically, this is a young program, but there was a change that was made that the providers that are allowed to apply would be nonprofits, would be organizations. There was some prior individuals that used to offer programming, and they said, would you please reconsider this change? And so we decided, okay, let's go ahead and you know, have 2 years of programming and see, you know, what's going on, how programs are functioning, do further research and look into this particular not issue, but this particular state of being. And so one of the things of reasons why it was changed, and this was prior to my time, was that we needed to have a structure and administrative support that a organization can bring. And so after review of the various challenges that that had happened currently or previously, the challenges in administration and the program execution seem to actually be related to a general lack of administrative skill and a lack of like program oversight rather than specifically with individual contractors. So for instance, we have the same challenges this year and last year with nonprofits that we contracted with that didn't necessarily have a clear administrative organizational breakdown. You know what I mean? So we were still having these, reports that still needed to be turned in on time. Needing individuals to integrate restorative practices, things like that. And so that exists in the nonprofit structure, as well as the problems that were happening before with individuals. So what I'm suggesting is that individuals be reconsidered for being program providers. And you will see that the eligibility section refers to an individual provider as a contractor, and that contractor does have to be registered with iSupplier with past experience of successful contract work. They will be asked to, and nonprofits asked to list references. And as you see, another notable change is that we're adding an administrative component to our review process as well. And I feel that we will be able to accurately gauge if the individual provider or the nonprofit provider has capacity to successfully execute these programs. So that is one change. If you, Grace, go to the next slide. I blame it on postpartum. Okay, this is what I'm blaming it on. In your original guidelines, I left organization in there, but we've actually started to refer to our providers this year as providers. And so that this is a change. So if this change in eligibility is reflected in description and funding categories, language would be changed from organization to providers. So providers will provide ongoing regular art experiences. So previously that was organization. But we've even started calling our organizations providers. So that's something to note. I can take questions on this section now, or just because, so we don't move on to the next one, if anyone has any questions, or would you prefer to wait till the very end? We have 3 more changes.
I think we can move on unless there's a hand raised right now. I think
Okay.
I prefer to wait till the end, and
Okay.
we'll take questions at the end, Nicole, but thank you
Okay,
for
great.
giving us that option.
Okay, thank you so much for your guidance. So another notable change, and this would support, this idea of including individual contractors back in here, as well as support the way that we select our nonprofit providers as well. So administrative competence and restorative practices integration. So these 2 areas you'll find are now scoring criteria. Administrative competence needs to be clearly outlined in application and integrated into the execution of the program. And so the application guides people like, who is your coordinator? How many hours a week have you designated for this program? What types of oversight and supervisory guidance are you offering? So who will be turning in your invoices? For some organizations, that's an accountant. For some, it's their coordinator, but that needs to be clearly outlined because sometimes those are the little hiccups that could just increase the efficiency of the program oversight. And then restorative practices needs to be more intentionally woven throughout the fiber of the programming. And so what we did, I feel like, pretty well given COVID and having to do all of this virtually, is to set up a framework and a really supportive structure and training as well as ongoing support to our restorative arts providers. I observe programming and give them feedback, and I'm really challenging them this year to really integrate restorative practices, that it's not just an art class, you know what I mean? But it is intentionally addressing restorative issues, or not issues, but integrating restorative practices. So next slide, please.
Sorry, one moment, Nicole.
Oh, that's fine.
There we go. Apologies.
So the third is deterrence and prevention category. So this just provides, we're just clearly stating that this in the guidelines, that this is a formal category for work being done. How it works is like probation, deterrence falls under probation. And so it's technically part of the probation department. And so youth are deterred and referred to organizations and the probation department. We work with Jessica Robertson, and there's about 20 plus agencies that offer deterrent programs that youth will be encouraged to attend and enroll. And so what happens is, and this is what Street Solids program does currently, is that they partner with that deterrent program, and so they offer their program within that structure, and so it kind of gives it a home there. This is what TPAC, same thing with their program, except they're directly working with youth through the grip court that are on probation. And so we just wanted to make sure that that was defined for you. This was an area that JJC at the beginning of the year said, you know what, we really, really, really need more support. We would love, Kelly said, she is the director of probation. She said, what TPAC is doing in probation, we would love to have for our deterrent youth, like so that they don't end up on probation and they don't end up detained, like to offer that support in that network that your providers do. And she was like, can we do that? Can we make this more visible and more integrated into deterrent youth? Like, we have great programs in detention and we have one great program in probation, but can we do this with our deterrent youth? And so Street Solid, that was their population, and that fell under probation, so they just still had it under the probation category. But we decided, hey, let's go ahead and highlight this as a category of service, because it is. And so the language, providers will provide mentorship and or instruction to youth who are enrolled in deterrence programs throughout Davidson County, or youth that have been identified by schools as youth who could benefit from prevention intervention types of programs and experiences. And so so that's the language there. And I'm so used, the educator in me, I'm like, are there any questions? But we'll wait till the end. I'm holding on to it, Sherry. Next slide, please, Grace. So that concludes the overview of significant changes for funding year 2022 with Restorative Arts Programming. And with that being said, I guess now is the time for questions. I have my notes here, and we can go ahead and begin this part.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for that. Are there any questions from commissioners or any discussions that you'd like to begin now? Well, I guess I can start out my questioning. What categorizes a deterrent youth? Well, I mean, it seems to be a bit vague. I know that the schools have a way of pinpointing this, but I mean, let's say I'm a deterrent youth. What have I done? What have I not done? How do I get into that category?
Okay, well, so the deterrence, and I should say that category it says deterrence and prevention, right? So the deterrence part is they have had a touch with the court. So say, for instance, maybe I steal something, okay? And I was apprehended and I have a touch with the court, and the court says, you know, this doesn't warrant necessarily formalized probation. We're going to issue a strong warning, you know, like this is not behavior that is, you know, permitted. And so we're going to make a recommendation that you enroll in a program. So for instance, like Oasis Center's Real,
Right.
that is a program with Deterrence, and we've worked with them before. And so the idea is, just a minute, Reggie. So I do apologize. Here you go. Take a few. Here. So that particular youth would be enrolled in a program, and they and the programs look different through the 20 plus providers. And so that's what happens. So it's no formalized like probation. They don't have a PO. They're actually not that organization that youth now was referred to and enrolled in. They provide the mentorship support. They provide the accountability. And so that's their responsibility. Or, you know, yes. So does that answer that question, Sherry? Sorry, I was disrupted by the 2-year-old with chocolate chips.
No apologies needed for the 2-year-old, but yes, it does very much, Nicole. I guess I was just a little ignorant on the issue. So I thought as much when you began that's exactly what it was going to be, and I'm glad that you cleared that up. Now, I've only been a commissioner for less than 2 years. I think I could be wrong, but anyway, is this our third or our fourth year with Restorative Arts? How old is this program?
So I believe that FY22 would be its 6th year. Correct me if I am wrong, Janine.
That's correct, Nicole. I'm surprised too. Like, oh, goodness, yes, it is our 6th iteration. So a good time to, again, expand out and reevaluate, although we're always kind of thinking about best practices and program improvement. But yep, 6 years, 6.
That's great, Janine. Thank you. Commissioner Powell, did you have a question or wanted to raise a point?
I did have a question. Just remind me, because I can't recall. Remind me how much a part of our grant budget goes to the Restorative Art Program, and I'm just wondering, with the addition, I think this is great. I just want to say that I think it's great that we're adding the addition of contractors that have potentially had past success with this kind of work. I commend that, and I think that that's a good thing to do, as well as including the deterrence as well. I'm just wondering, how much do we generally have? I can't remember now what our allocation is to this, and just with the additional opportunity to engage, do we feel like that means we'll get more applications, less, it'll be more competitive, and how will we go about deciding, which programs? They're all different, right? Between the deterrence and the prevention, and those folks that are in detention, how we go about like making sure everybody has a resource.
Okay, so I've heard about four questions.
There were several things in there, yes.
So if we skip one, please say, okay, you didn't answer that one. But the first question, I will actually direct to Janine, because we're supposed to get the budget. It's proposed. You know what? Janine knows all the language.
I'll just
Go ahead,
I'll
Janine.
jump in. So of course, it's been about, we have with it, it's about, I think it's about 180,000 of the total. This is what we use for restorative arts, but that's including kind of everything that's involved in restorative arts. So like the training and coordination and all of that. Part of that is there. And then I'm looking up the actual totals from last year. And I think that was, it's.
I can bring it up, but I believe it was 98.
98, correct.
Something.
Yeah, so it's close to about, like $100,000 for the awards, and then kind of the rest is for the running of it. So that's not very big at all in the grand scheme of things. And then the other questions, or I guess Nicole can handle the other three, but that's just those are the numbers.
So the other question that piggybacked that, Mattia, was you asked if there was possibility of increase. Was that, I just heard
I just was concerned. I just wondered if, I know this grant particular, there's a particular group of folks that are, equipped with being able to do this work. Everybody can't do this. But I'm wondering, since we have, since we're going to add the addition of deterrent, are we going to be able to, do we feel like we need to have the budget to be able to cover everybody so everybody has a resource? And, I just know we have challenging budget years. So I just know that sometimes we just have to make decisions. And, since we're adding an additional category, how do we make sure that, is the plan to make sure that every one of those categories has some level of programming? How do we make those decisions? And, what are the expectations? Do we think we'll have more applicants for this addition? That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, what we think will happen, and like the conversations we've had, are that some of the providers within the juvenile detention shift, because that's in response to conversations with the Juvenile Justice Center, that they're saying like, we'd actually like, we think we can get the coverage of arts programming with, maybe just these providers, on these set dates, and it's limited, and that's pretty static. That's, kind of not going to grow, but we think that the growth is going to be over here. So like, I think in this kind of a little bit of a pilot year with Deterrence, not a new program, but a new avenue, we're going to see probably a shifting over to Deterrence. And then we'll see there, and we'll see how how those programs go. And, we're always thinking of development and how do we continue to support the program and grow the program to meet the needs. But that right now, the need seems to be more about a shifting as opposed to like a wider expansion for now. And then, so we'll see. So this is definitely like kind of like a transition year where we'll see that, but we don't, because it's such a specific skill set to have for this program, we don't anticipate too many more people. It's more about like, there might be a couple teaching artists who are already who are already acting as teaching artists within the program, who might just apply on their own, as kind of individual providers. So that we might see that a little bit, but it won't be, I don't anticipate too much of a application surge, because it's not that many people can do this work, truly.
This all makes sense. That was great. That answered all my questions. Thank you guys so much.
And just to add to, when we talked about the shifting, the detention center, only like has so much capacity to support the programming. So in some aspects, it's kind of overwhelmed at times. And so their capacity, hey, we have 8 classes going on, but they're also reaching out to some other organizations, and they have a cosmetology program now. And so that cosmetology program now has become priority and a different support to answer a need within their population, to which, restorative arts now does not. Does that make sense? And so they're also adding some more like trades and vocational type things, but they love our programs, but also just the capacity of staffing and things like that has added to the reevaluation, and realizing that in detention there are 30 to 40 youth detained, and but there's also a wider scope, as Juvenile Justice Center said, like, hey, we need to get them before they get to this point, and support and build network around. So thank you so much for that question, Mattia.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mattia, very much. Oh, I'm sorry. Did anyone else want to say something? Any further discussion? I think it's great that I think our mission and our goal is always to serve as many people as we can in an equal amount, in equal capacity, I should say. And I think that these changes are good. I think if we try to broaden our scope, I think that's always a good thing. So I won't give my opinion anymore on this. And if there are no more discussions, Mattia, I think you still have your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Nope, sorry, I have to take it down.
Okay, staff, do you want to go ahead and ask for a motion to approve, or would you like me to do this?
I'll
Thank
do it.
you.
Staff asks for a motion to approve the FY22 Restorative Arts Guidelines.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I'm asking a commissioner to put this motion forward.
So
This is
moved.
Bonnie. I so move.
Yep.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Dow and Commissioner Powell. Thank you for seconding. Let's take a roll call on this. And Commissioner Byrd, how do you stand?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Dow
Yes.
and Commissioner Powell.
Yes.
And Commissioner Busey votes yes as well.
Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Well, I think I'm going to pass the meeting on to Janine again. She's going to give us some updates on the grant panel process.
Great. And actually, thanks, of course. And actually, I'm going to hand it off to Marissa. I'm just passing the ball today.
Sounds good. Thank you, Marissa.
Yeah, thanks, Janine. Hey, everybody. Just a quick update on where we're at with the grant panels. So as we know, the applications are in. We've been in the process of recruiting panelists to review the core operating grant category, because the basic category is in re-verification this year. So the panelist applications, we can go back actually. The panelist applications are open. They actually close tomorrow. They've been open for about a month. When I checked this morning, I think we had 37 applicants, and I saw 3 more come in kind of while we were sitting here. So folks are kind of getting their applications in. There's a lot of interest, which is exciting. We have been reviewing the applicants. We'll make some decisions about forming the panels probably early next week. We will have 2 panels to handle our 21 applications on May 4th and May 6th. We've recruited our financial reviewers for the financial review portion of this review. We're in the process of getting them all set up and trained as well. And all the training and materials will be sent to the panelists next week. So next week's when we'll notify who's going to be on the panel. We'll schedule their Zoom invites, and we'll send them their training videos and their login info to get into our system and do the review. So that's where we're at.
That's great, Marissa. Thank you. It's always exciting to get the panel process going. I really am looking forward to it this year. Any discussions from the commissioners on the program updates?
Can you guys share? Did you guys share out the panel application? I actually got some folks that are interested in. I got some folks. Someone emailed me about getting involved, and I thought this was a good way for them to get involved. Can you send that link out or share it in the? I don't know. I don't know if WebEx got a chat. I'm not sure how. But
yeah, absolutely. We can send that out. Also, if you go to MetroArt's website, I believe there should be a section now that says like opportunities, and within the opportunities section, there's a section specifically about panels. And so there's a link where you can apply to be a panelist for these dates, or if these dates don't work for you, there's another form you can fill out that just tells us what you're interested in, and then we save your info. So if we ever are looking for panelists for other dates, we have that info.
Thank you.
And we're happy to send that out to you too.
I think I can find it on the website. I'm sure I can.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, yeah, that is awesome. Get more people on board. Any further discussion on this? Okay, well, the next thing we have to do is just to set up our next meeting. I think the virtual meeting expires on April 28th. Do we need to have a meeting before that? Janine or Grace, do you know?
We don't, Grants and Funding Committee doesn't need to meet for any action prior to that. So it's just, yeah, we're look into the future for grants allocations and everything.
Great. So Grace,
panels will be virtual though. So just, you know, yeah.
I got it, Janine. Thank you. So Grace, you tell us, I guess you're going to send us something. Tell us what we need to do.
Yeah, so I have a couple, like a broad range of date time options up on the screen. If we can hash something out now, but since Mary Lynette and Clay weren't able to make it, I'll probably send an official poll after this. But if y'all have any thoughts, preferences ahead of time, I know there are some regular scheduled meetings. So if we can knock off some of the times now, that would be great.
As I look at these dates, I don't see anything that I have to absolutely positively say nix to. So yeah, I think sending the dates out to fellow commissioners would be my option right now, would be my suggestion. And then we can say yay or nay, but if somebody has any specific date that they want to let Grace know about right now, you're welcome to do so.
Yeah, I can't. I'm gonna be on vacation on the 4th and the 4th, and I think the 3rd, but I need to check my flight. I'm not 100% sure. But definitely the 4th. And I think that's maybe the only thing I see right now that I couldn't do. I mean, the time frames on some of these days I couldn't do, but most of the other days I have some availability. But those for sure I know I can't do.
Thanks, Matia. Anyone else?
The earlier in the program, the better. Steeplechase is June 26th. So definitely have meetings on June 10th. So, but early in the month is fine.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll just wait until we get a little, some guidelines from Grace, and we'll go from there. Are we ready to adjourn this meeting, ladies? Okay, cool. Well, thank you all for being here. That completes the business of this meeting. And I'll call adjournment and thank you so much.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you,
Right,
everyone.
thank you.